So, truth be told, I've been putting off making this video for a long time. See, a few months ago, I decided I needed to rebuild my pedal board. And I started a series of videos here on the channel documenting the whole process. If you haven't watched those, check them out in the link here, and then come back. I'll wait. If you've been with the channel for a while, though, you've probably noticed I haven't talked very much about my pedal board since it was completed. And there's a reason for that. In fact, let's just go grab it out of the truck. So this isn't really a grand reveal or anything. If you've been watching my recent videos, you've seen this board in action. But I haven't talked about it, and I haven't gone through a full demo and review. And the reason is, I kind of hate this board. Maybe hate is a strong word. I don't actually hate this board. There's a lot of things that it does really well. It accomplishes what I set out to do. It's one centralized, fairly organized place to hold all of the pedals that I thought I needed on the road. I mean, there's really a lot of things that I like about it. The board itself I really like. I think the Novo 24 is a good overall size. I also really like the changes that Pedal Train made to their overall design, making the boards a little taller in the front. Also, I really like that this is a super versatile board. I can cover basically any gig, any session, anything I would need to do with this one pedal board, which was my goal when I set out to build it. But for me, that's kind of where the positives end. I've been living with this thing for about 2.5, 3 months now, and honestly, this is probably one of my least favorite pedal board setups I've ever had. And here's the thing, this is nobody's fault but mine. I'm the one that bit off more than they could chew. I'm the one that decided to cram a new pedal board into a really tight timeline. I'm the one that cut the corners. It's really my fault, which is why I'm making this video. I want to help you learn from my mistakes so that when you're building your next pedal board, you can learn and not do what I did. So based on a lot of the comments and response I've gotten to pictures of this board on Instagram and the videos that it has been featured in, a lot of you may be thinking, man, I would love to have this pedal board or a board like this. And I can kind of understand why. I mean, it looks good on Instagram, but you don't want this setup, and I'm going to tell you why. First of all, this space is just way too crowded. There's way too much going on here. I can't tell you how many times I've kicked knobs and changed settings, or I've gone for one pedal only to turn on another. The worst part is right around here in the volume pedal. This is probably where my feet spend most of the time, is riding the volume pedal back and forth. And if you look, you can see how close the Reaper switch is to the base of the volume pedal. There has been several times in live settings where I've gone to turn my volume pedal up or down and accidentally turned on my fuzz. Now, you may not think that's a big deal until you take into account that I play with singer-songwriters and I play in church gigs where there's a lot of quiet songs, quiet, somber moments where the last thing you want to do is kick on your gnarly fuzz sound. So that's happened several times. I have big feet. I wear a size 12, 12.5 shoe. And this space right here is just way too narrow for me to actuate the volume control safely without risk of turning on one of my craziest sounding pedals. The second most active part of the board is right here between my Vertex pedal and my Greer Lightspeed. I'm always turning these pedals on and off. Now my original thought was, oh, it'll be super convenient to have the switches next to each other because I can pop both of them on and off really quickly. The problem is, again, because I have big feet, a lot of times I end up hitting both pedals at once. So what happens is, if they're both off, I kick them both on at the same time, which is not always what I want. Or if one is on and the other is off, I end up switching them, which again is not what I want. The other problem is, look at how close the control knobs on the Hoof Reaper are to the switch of the steel string. Pretty much every time I click on the steel string, I'm changing my settings, at least on the hoof side, but most of the time on both sides of the Hoof Reaper. Now another problem with this setup is the way I ended up having to run signal cable. I plug my guitar in here to the JHS color box, and my signal chain flows from color box to Jex to Les to volume pedal to boost pedal. If you look, you can see all of these intricate cable runs that I've had to make where the cable is bent in really tight right angles. It's folded over in weird ways. In some cases, I had to use different jacks with the smaller plugs, which I hate, like here on top of the H9. And while these are all soldered cables, having them in tight quarters like this is a recipe for cable failure. These weird curves and stacking cables on top of each other and having the power cables at weird angles, this is just asking for a signal cable or a power cable to go bad during a gig, which luckily hasn't happened, but I know from experience that a setup like this, it's not long until something like that happens. And another problem with this board, I just have too many pedals. I bought one of the biggest power supplies you can get your hands on, and I don't have enough outlets on the power supply to run all of these pedals. If you notice, I never use my bit commander, and that's because it's not powered. And the only way I can run the Echo Park boost is by using the extra power outlet on the Polytune. If I was using a different tuner or a Polytune Mini that didn't have the extra power jack, I would have two pedals on this board with no power. And the reality is I have pedals on here that I just don't use. The JHS color box, I never turn it on. I never use it. Every time I try and force myself to use it, I don't like it. It doesn't play nicely with my fuzz pedals. It makes the Canyon Climber sound really weird in a bad way. Also, I have redundant effects. Since I have the H9 Max on here, I don't really need a tremolo. Honestly, I could probably get away with dropping a reverb or delay because I have this thing. It's really good at reverb. It's really good at delay and modulation effects. I mean, this thing is crazy versatile. So I could eliminate probably 2 or 3 pedals off the board just by having the H9 Max. So what can we learn from this? When you are putting together something that is as crucial and important as a pedal board, take your time, think ahead, plan it out. It would really help to draw out and think about your signal chain. Think about growth. Do you want to add more stuff in the future? If you can afford it, it may be worth reaching out to a company that designs and builds pedal boards professionally. There's a lot of companies that will take you through the whole design process and build a really robust tour-ready board. Really nice cable runs, really well thought out signal flow, buffer boxes, junction boxes. I mean, if you can afford it, that's really the way to go. If not, take a step and learn from those guys. Go on Instagram and look at how they're putting their boards together. Go on YouTube and watch some of their videos talking about soldering cables and signal flow and routing and things like that. Don't attempt what I did here, trying to fit as much into as small a space as possible. It just doesn't work. It's impractical, and now I have to figure out what to do next. I've been gigging on this thing long enough now. I've kind of gotten used to it, and I can make it work. The thing I'm really worried about, though, is the reliability of the cables. I'm really, really afraid that I'm going to have a failure somewhere on this board, and because everything is so tight and complex, it would be impossible to fix in the middle of a show. So I don't know what I'm going to do next, but I do know that I'm going to take my time, think it through, and design something that works, that's not overly complicated, that's versatile, and that will last me for years to come. Let me know what you think about my board in the comments section down below. And if you learned anything or maybe something I didn't cover that you think I should know, leave a comment. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. If you want to support my channel, you can find a link to my Patreon page in the description box down below, as well as links to a lot of the gear that I use through Amazon affiliates. If you buy through one of those links, I get a direct kickback, which helps me in making these videos. Anyways, that's all for now. Thanks for watching. I'm Rhett Shull, and remember, there is no plan B. Well, except for this board. I guess you could say there's like a plan B for this board, because plan A sucked on this one, so I'm going to plan B.